And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the weekly armchair kickoff. I am Darragh, your host, as always, and we are here to preview Southampton. This will be great. And I'm joined by my ever lovely Dublin man, Mark Hanna. Mark, how are we getting on?
I'm okay. Other than my child playing the PS5 in the background, in which I can hear, and I've told him to get off several times.
Look, these things happen. These things
Yeah.
happen. So, I suppose we won't kick off straight into everything. We won't go straight into the preview. We'll play around a small bit. So we'll start with kind of like where everyone's kind of after pick you up really. United players on the international break. I suppose you look at the various players that have played. You look at the fact that Manu and Maguire have played under Lee Carsley. So many different players have played, and we'll get on to one of our main men, who would be a hot topic in just a moment. But I suppose, have you any thoughts as to how some of our players actually performed, whether it be good or bad, across the international break?
I wouldn't say anything indifferent in regards to any of the players that I'd seen, albeit it wasn't a heavy load of them. I thought that there was no one that done a discredit to themselves, particularly
Mm,
obviously the English lads, considering obviously I would have watched Ireland and England last weekend.
mm,
And then, yeah, I've obviously seen just bits of Ugarte, which obviously are possibly going to come on to just in regards to obviously just YouTube clips because I just wanted to see how many minutes, etc., he played and
mm.
how he done and what was the synopsis of fans etc on
Yeah.
YouTube, what had they been saying about his performance. But other than that, I haven't watched an awful lot of the international break. I was just more inclined to watch Ireland, unfortunately.
And it's just depressing watching Ireland. like hello, one of our Irishmen just in the room behind me, Will Smallbone. I thought didn't play the worst, but we'll focus on United here. So with Manu and Maguire, Manu, I suppose when you talk about the Ireland England game, to break off slightly though, I didn't think Ireland played that badly against England. It was just England under Lee Carsley looked fucking fantastic. It was just a case of I thought, okay, Ireland didn't play that badly when they had the ball, so I thought, okay, give them a better chance of against Greece. I thought was going to be a case of right, we played decent bit of football because we saw glimpses against England. How wrong I was, but no, I was glad to see Manu actually getting uh, benched against Finland for England because at least then he was getting some bit of a rest. I actually didn't keep track. Did he actually come on as a sub at all, or did he just not play the 90 minutes? Does anyone know?
I'm actually not sure at all
No,
there.
but it's like at the same time, like it was good to see him not actually starting from the start at the very least. Like so, it was a godsend in that regard. Bruno and Dado once again flourishing under Portugal. For like it's frustrating to see. Like I suppose the better question to really bring into the forefront is United players can play across different systems because at the end of the day, you're a footballer. You have to have the adaptability to play under a different system each time, whether it be club or country. Because no matter what happens, if you're playing for one club, you could be changing from one manager to another. So I suppose the question is it? I suppose to you, is obviously like myself, it's frustrating to see how some players can flourish in a different system under Ten Hag. So I suppose when you see Ten Hag being stubborn in his tactics, now fair enough, we see it in our own two ways. First 15, 20 minutes, 9 times out of 10 are a fantastic flowing bit of football for United, but it's just the lacking consistency to maintain it over 90 minutes. The question would be looking at the fact that under international duty, players can play well under a different system for 90 minutes. Is the case that you think Ten Hag needs to stop being stubborn and bring in a new system? Or do you think there's something else to it?
I think there's more to it. I wish it was as simplistic as that. Just saying to them, go ahead and play the system. Realistically, Portugal have a better overall nucleus of talent than we do
Mm.
at Manchester United as a squad, and that's the realism.
Mm-hmm.
Portugal, like on paper, are a very good side, and they play to their strengths, and very good attacking players, as well as obviously their defenders. And similar to Portugal in the sense of, from a Manchester United stylistics, Delo gets further an awful lot as well.
Yeah.
However, he does have players that can break down play. if it's a case where obviously they're defending against like a low block, etc.
Yeah, like
It's
even
it's yeah
like
it's stuff like that. It's like they get around very quickly with Manchester United. It's stagnant, unfortunately. However, like I don't want to veer too much off topic in regards to the question that you asked.
mhm,
Tomorrow, obviously, it's we are coming back off an international break. Some of the players obviously would have been rested, particularly the likes of Marcus Rashford, etc., who didn't travel with England, albeit we've seen them put out videos across social media during the week. So
yeah.
it's them players that you're looking at, say to yourself, you know what, like you're rested in that regard. So hopefully we can push on and get 3 points, albeit a 12:30 kickoff is generally a poison chalice. So
Yeah, and as we'll kind of touch upon it when we're actually getting to the match itself, this game is not bar the 9-0 have not been a high scoring affair across the last number of years. So it'd be interesting to see. Now, one thing I noted from again, I'm like yourself, I didn't get a chance to watch a whole lot of the international break. I suffered through the Ireland game, but I didn't bother with the Greece game, if I'm being honest. Lisandro Martinez, he featured both games for Argentina, but he featured one of them at left back. Is that a possibility of a future at left back from now? I suppose you look back at the Community Shield and you have to think he didn't look comfortable there. So it's a question then of, is it a case of having him adapt properly to left back, or especially when we're talking about potentially still being in for Brantwaite as well?
it's one of them where it's like if you'd ask him what his favorite position is and his best position is, he's obviously going to turn around and say he's a centre half versus anything
Mhm.
else. However, I think he's one of them. He comes across as one of them characters that you could ask him to play in goal and he would,
Yeah,
as
that's
long as he's playing.
even
Um,
for a 5'7" goalkeeper,
yeah, 5'7"
five foot
goalkeeper.
nine
Yeah,
even.
yeah, 5'9" with a pair of shoes on. Yeah, um, yeah. No, I obviously, do you know what? It's good to have that as an option because realistically, particularly obviously in the game against Liverpool, you still have the low playing left full where, like,
Mm,
he's not comfortable there. Realistically,
yeah,
he's just not, particularly defending against like obviously in a world class attacker in regards to Mo Salah. However, like again, like I mentioned, poison chalice in regards to 12:30 kickoff. Like it seems to be that from a fullback perspective, a left full, we can't get someone who can rubber stamp that position that can number one maintain injury free, and then number two literally give us like such a flourish of games.
mm.
It's been such a topsy turvy position for Manchester United over the past couple of seasons. Like we started Amrabat there last year when he come into the team. Like we're
It was
at no
literally his debut. I think we actually
his
put him in
debut
there.
started, yeah, left full, yeah. And that fella just he couldn't kick on, albeit like he had a very good FA Cup final.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to get to is, yeah, like if it was the case where obviously he's played there several times previously, me personally, you'd much rather a left-footed left full than a right-footed left full playing against
Yeah,
obviously like world-class attacking teams. Potentially going forward, because
of
that's
course.
where obviously you're going to, literally be prone to make mistakes, and Delo obviously is, he's going to be stigmatized based on obviously the position, the style we play, and the fact that obviously our midfield at times can be null and void, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, and like I suppose I was going to bring it. We mentioned left backs, and I was going to bring in the fact of Malastia, but I was going to say there's no point in going down that rabbit hole because we could be here all night talking about
I'm
Malastia.
still, I'm, st- I still think that there's something like today. Like I know, obviously we were fed through the media that he was coming back into full team training, etc.
Mm,
First team training and full contact training, etc. And then today, Ten Hag was like, "Oh yeah, he's getting close," and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, this is like, is this some kind of like circus act or something? Like, what? Like, we
like,
got very vague information in the media. Through Ten Hag and his coaching staff,
mhm.
what had actually happened to him in the first place. It was just like, okay, this is a knee injury that kept him out. Like, does anyone pinpoint or has anyone pinpointed what the injury actually is?
I
I mean,
think, like, I suppose, like, it was. I won't call it a bog standard knee injury because nothing about an knee
it has
injury
to
is
be an
bog standard.
ACL,
But
like
so was it the Athletic came out there back was this I'm gonna say start of the year, and they said something along the lines of the reason he's been out for so long is because I think basically what happened was he had the surgery originally, and I think it it'll be either way or vice versa of why I say. Either he went on his own way of getting the surgery something happened in the surgery where they messed up, and then the club got him to do another surgery. It was either club got him to do the surgery, something happened, and he went into himself, or he did it himself. Uh, got the surgery, something would happen, and then the club got him to go for a second surgery. That's why he's been out for so long. Now, you could be talking all night about as to the reason it actually taken so long to actually grasp how long he's actually been out for. You get me?
Yeah, a few conspiracy theorists,
Mm.
etc. Like, yeah. So yeah, we can move on quickly from that. Hopefully, he comes back to full fitness soon,
Oh
and
no,
obviously
of course.
he's an option for ourselves. Because realistically, I'm not turning around saying the man is an absolute world beater of a fullback. However, there's potential there to be a very good fullback, and that's obviously what we need at the moment, a left-sided fullback.
And I was excited just from the 22-23 season alone. You could see the excitement about him, and like that's why I was there. Like, okay, just wrap him up and bubble wrap, because from, and I'm not even being a nostalgia merchant here. Literally, just the way he handled that left hand side with Sandro Martinez in the Liverpool game, especially, I thought he was just a beast that game. So I was there like, if he can put up performances like this in the future, we have a kid in our hands here. Like, but I'm actually going to move it on to fellow countrymen in De Ligt and Xerxes. And to say the least, it was a mixed time for the Dutchman. Xerxes, of course, first start, first goal, and I had a conversation with a couple of people I know on Twitter about how the actual goal build up was. Again, he kind of started the build up himself, dropping deeper. But someone made a point to me. It was the fact that my lineups are a bit hazy now, so I think it was Gakpo or someone like that was playing on the left hand side, and it was just the way that it was more narrow. Whereas someone made the point to me, imagine Ten Hag didn't have Rashford hugging the sideline, which to be fair, Rashford prefers to be hugging the sideline because he can attack it more directly that way. But if you have, basically, the friend of mine was explaining to me that if you take Rashford hugging the sideline and bring him into a more narrow formation and have that build up play, because like Rashford, when he actually can do it, isn't a bad person to build up a bit of play. It's a case of, we saw it last season. He was selfish when he should have taken, or when he should have given the pass, and when he gave the pass, he should have been selfish. So it was a catch-22 for him, really. So look, hopefully the training that Rashford himself has done over the course of the international break has come to fruition. We'll know tomorrow if he starts. But then, unfortunately, we have to talk about Matthijs de Ligt. For someone who was singled out in the 5-2 win over Bosnia, I believe, and they won 5-2, and yeah, he's the one they're still talking about because he just happens to play for Man United. No, fair enough. The goal against Germany that he was leading the error to, it was brutal to say the least. But like, do you think he can bounce back from this now, or do you think there's going to be more on it because he's now playing for Man United, so more media attention, more on his way?
I'm sure that like he would have been, this would have been identified to him through obviously uh, his agents and as a whole, like
Yeah,
everybody knows. Like you come to Manchester United, if it's a case where you're making mistakes, whether it be with your national team or the squad team as a whole, in regards to Manchester United, you're going to be scrutinised. With him more so than again anyone else, considering the clubs that he's had to come on from. And obviously, like, the man has been put on a pedestal since he's 17. Obviously, captain Ajax, went all the way to the semis with them at that point, and
yeah.
played obviously in the Europa League final against United. So like, I think he's
You would actually forget he's rolled that long.
exactly, that's the frightening part. So like realistically, I think like he's more mature than what we think for a 24-year-old,
Hmm.
albeit 24 still very young considering, like you just said, what you touched on, he's been around so long.
Yeah.
But he, I wouldn't have any worries about him. Like, everybody is prone to make a mistake. Like, again, I'll touch on it briefly, so I don't want to talk too much about him. But in regards to Virgil van Dijk, he didn't have a great game that game either,
No,
and
that I
he
like that's the
and he,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, and he made several mistakes as well. However, he wouldn't be scrutinised as much because, again, he's put on even a higher pedestal considering he's supposed to be this world class defender.
No,
However,
I would say
you know,
this much, though. Like, I was going to bring it to a point of, is it down to the case that Glickton, I suppose Glickton, Van Dyke, whatever you want to say about them, are they you could kind of bring it back to my earlier point about playing in a different system on an international break compared to club level. But I suppose I've heard people say that Van Dijk hasn't been let off the hook either, because it's a case of it's a Marco van Basten's always out for him. I think there's always one person out for him, and I think that was the last name mentioned. So I'm gonna say it was him.
See, it's like anything though. Like, see, with the likes of like the Licks transfer to Manchester United as a whole was scrutinised from the get go due to the
Mm,
fact that you have all these people, the likes of Graham Souness and all. They'll come out and they'll turn around and say, "Well, look, why is it that Juventus wanted to let him go? Why did Bayern want to let him go? Because like he obviously hasn't nailed it down again. Like we can lean back to them conspiracy theorists who like literally just put out stuff on Twitter.
mm,
Oh, like Eric Dyer was in ahead of him, etc. And then obviously we got the statistics in regards to everything that was going on with that
yeah.
centre back pairing. So like I'm personally not um I'm not bothered with the licked. And I think the longer that he can, albeit he hasn't started the first couple of games, or sorry, started against Liverpool, but
Yeah.
started the first two games. I think that like Ten Hag has a vision in regards to nailing down his two centre halves, who he wants to play.
Of
That's
course.
potentially obviously the Ligt and Lisandro Martinez, provided we get Luke Shaw fit over the left hand side. Personally, that's what I think he's going to go for. So like Man United, we didn't, albeit like in today's market, it was a very cheap sign, and considering
Mm,
obviously he's still a prospect in regards to he's 24. Like
exactly. Yeah.
realistically, he's a good 10 years left of him still in regards to his career. Hopefully, injuries, don't get a hold of him, considering you get a hold of every Man United player.
Now, I
But
will say this much though, like you were saying there about, and I don't want to be saying like I don't want to be coming across that I agree with Graham Souness, because I would rather walk out here now than say that I agree with Graham Souness. However, one thing I will say about the whole thing of why Juventus let him go, why Bayern let him go, we all know that Juventus let him go because they're in financial ruin. That's why they got rid of Ronaldo, because they were saying, look, you can go, just get us off, or get off our wage book. But I suppose the only reason I was kind of more surprised in the after the window shut with Bayern letting the league go was simply down to the fact that, yeah, it was the fact that Bayern wanted to buy Johnson Ta from Bayer Leverkusen, and the plan was the Ligt goes, Ta comes in, but Ta never went from Leverkusen over to Munich in the end. So I suppose, especially with one of their the ISO or someone, one of their uh, current defenders knows after getting a injury that's going to keep him out for a chunk of the season. So in hindsight, it was actually kind of surprising that Bayern let him go in the end.
yeah, that move with Hart obviously didn't materialize, but the dog's in the street now where he wanted to go, and that move will materialize.
Oh, probably summer 25 now,
Yeah,
guaranteed.
100,
Like,
100%. Like he done his work, and in other words, he was forefront of that Bundesliga win for those who were like, into a defender's defender. That's what ultimately Jonathan Tah is,
hmm,
and he's a German lad as well. Look, we can scrutinise the transfer. Why did Bayern let such a potentially prestigious player go in the
hmm,
Ligt? But at the same time, did Vincent Company not come out and say that, like, well, it's this again? Apparently, it gets thrown through the media that he wanted to keep him as a centre half and he was going to start them, etc. This is what I'd read going back a couple of weeks ago. So, like
okay, I
that,
didn't even see anything in
yeah,
relation to the company now or anything. So,
yeah, honest to God, yeah. So, that's obviously what I read. I forget where I read it. It was obviously Twitter somewhere. But let's be serious here. The licked Ten Hag, etc., albeit he stood out for a couple of transfers that we wouldn't
yeah,
agree with. Like you know what you're getting with Delict.
yeah,
You do. Like we're not like this is a man like I touched on previously. He's still 24. People are writing him off, saying like, what, he has been around a long time. There's no doubt about it. And he's a 24-year-old with a wealth of experience on his shoulders.
yeah,
So I'm not concerned about that signing. The cynic in me, would he be concerned about why do clubs let him go?
yeah,
Yes. However, like we have to bear in mind, he was playing for these clubs. It wasn't like he was starting on the bench. Like he was playing for Juventus,
yeah,
and he was playing also for Bayern Munich, and he's
exactly.
relatively injury free, relatively. So there's obviously a financial aspect of something there as well, and
Mm,
so like yeah, it doesn't concern me. I actually really like him, like I've liked him
mm,
since I was younger in the sense of but obviously he chose Juventus, but there was talk of Arsenal in around the time as well. Obviously we had Mourinho at the helm. I think at the time he was playing for Ajax. and obviously he had that agent who passed away. So obviously, like at that time,
Was he one of Riola's agents?
he
Or
was Riola's, yeah,
oh,
Riola actually, yeah. So and then Riola, that woman who was his agent at the moment is the same agency group.
okay, did not know
Nearly,
that.
yeah, I'm nearly sure, yeah. So like it was obviously whatever financial aspect was there at the time, and
Hmm.
as well as that, obviously Juventus are potentially the biggest club in Italy. So
Hmm.
it does again, and he was only what age was he when he went? Was he 19 or 20 or something to that
1920,
effect?
yeah, like that. It's
Yeah,
like,
like he's a kid in footballing terms. He's 24. He's a kid.
hmm,
And there's a couple of experienced bodies around him there as well. That'll get around him. Like I said, I wouldn't make too much heed of it. The English press, no matter what, are going to absolutely bombard you, considering you're the Manchester United player, and they'll
hmm.
throw you under the bus. We've seen it with our players before, and I'm sure that we have people at the club literally that'll pull players in and rein them in and say, look, this is how it is to be a Manchester United player. Like realistically, all you'd have to do is go over and ask Marcus Rashford what's happened in the past couple of months. Literally say to him, like, how are you getting on, etc.
Exactly.
And he'd be told.
And speaking, and I suppose bringing onto the hot topic there here, though, as I kind of touched on earlier, you're on about summer signings. Manuel Ugarte, he is still a big talk about given everything that's kind of gone on the last couple of weeks. So I suppose you point out he played the 2 games. I think it was like 160 odd minutes, which is what a full 90 minutes and 80 odd. I think he played. So for someone who hadn't played since Copa America to go straight into uh 2 games in South America, and it's been pointed out by people on Twitter as well, especially those games in South America aren't exactly easy games to play because they're full of intensity, they're full of high pressing, something that we should be familiar with at this point. But the question really is, do you think Ten Hag will be willing to start him now after seeing that he played 2 games straight off the back of that? Or is he just going to try and justify his post Liverpool comments of "I'm not Harry Potter"?
I found them comments very strange. I understand like he didn't play an awful lot of preseason games at
Mm,
PSG. However, he was fully fit, albeit not match fit.
yeah,
And as well as that, obviously goes over and plays very well for Uruguay. And I just think at times Ten Hag bites his nose to spite his face, like in the sense of
literally.
So he comes out and he makes these comments after the Liverpool game, and then he's obviously asking the presser yesterday what's going on with Ugarte, and then he says, "Well, basically, we've seen that he's played. Everyone has seen he's played. I personally don't think he's going to start him tomorrow."
Mm,
However, like with the upcoming games, he has to be seen to start them because we need legs in the midfield, and that's
yeah,
obviously been uh, signified so many times, particularly over after the Liverpool game with Casemiro. So
yeah,
we need a player that, and like what you said, obviously the intensity in them games, it's like dog eat dog.
literally,
Like
like,
literally, it is. It's baffling to watch. It's brilliant to watch. But yeah, he has the legs and he'll run and like all. One thing throughout, like I know like it can be a fickle-minded world at times, but I haven't read one bad thing about Aguerte as a whole. In
yeah,
regards to the position that he plays in the pitch, obviously defensive midfielder, etc. He can play in the 4, can play in the 6, and he hasn't been one bad comment. I haven't seen anyone saying, realistically, because I think PSG held out for so long because they knew like they were losing a very good player in them.
mm.
That's
You see, I suppose like I said this about PSG selling Ugarte. The only reason they held out for that price for so long was because they only bought him last year, and that is the only reason they held out for so long. I think any other club wants to, other than Man United. Like I said this before on social media, Ineos are slowly bringing in the idea of United tax is going to be a thing of the past, and I genuinely hope that is the case. But I'm there like to see PSG of all the teams trying to hold out for a price tag because they only bought him last year. It's frustrating to see, but you know that at the end of the day, like what was it? It was like 50 million euros was the fixed fee, and then 10 millions in add-ons. So it's going to come to what PSG want, provided all the add-ons are met. Who knows? And like as we were kind of having a discussion in the group chat at the time, when you consider if we're actually paying that 10 million add-ons uh in that fee to PSG, at the end of the day, we're paying that because he's done well for the club. So that 10 million is only going to be a drop in the ocean. So
yeah,
it's like I don't see where I can see where you're going saying you don't think he's going to start. I can probably envision it's going to be a very similar of the Casemiro scenario where he came in. It seems ironic. They both came in at the time of the Liverpool game, and then after the international break, they were on the bench for their first official game, subbed on after like 30 minutes.
I agree with you, but when I meant I don't think he'll this man is brought into play, and obviously the bolster our midfield. The reason why I'd suggest that he won't start tomorrow is because during that press conference, Ten Hag said, well, he was the last person in from international duty, if I'm not mistaken, and he's very tired. This is what he said. In other words, he's tired
I
from
thought
the
you said he
travel,
was the
etc.
first in.
It was either the first or the last, but the comment that stuck out for me was he was tired based on the travel. So I said to myself, here basically now we are reverting, and you're saying that, because like, do you know what I'm baffled with? And like, look, we again talk all day about Ten Hag. I'm baffled after, like, was it just out of frustration he says this? Because that's not what Manchester United fans wanted to hear, that you're after bringing in a player for that amount of money and that he was supposed to be the answer to our problems from a defensive midfielder perspective, and then all of a sudden you're telling the fans as a whole that he won't be fit and ready for a long time, which I found very weird and frustrating as well.
But like, I suppose you were just saying there, you could be talking all day about Ten Hag. I gotta bring up this comment from Keane, and he'd probably beat me over the head if I don't. Ronaldo said on Rio's podcast that Ten Hag should be listening to Rude. What are your thoughts on it?
I think again, it's very tongue in cheek by Ronaldo. It's just, and as well as that, it's a media bait as well from himself. He knows how to play the game. Ronaldo, he's been around a long time. He's not stupid. Like, listen to Rude. It's just, like I've seen, like, it popped up on YouTube suggested today. It was 3 or 4 videos, talk sport, different obviously presenters, and the whole thing was just it was just clickbait. It was like, Ronaldo and this and that, and he says the man is inept at his job. That's exactly what you're saying. He shouldn't, so like I think like it was very ignorant and arrogant almost from Ronaldo. Like, I understand Ruud van Nistelrooy was brought in from a different perspective altogether. Like, we don't really know what his job is at Manchester United. Like, I'm assuming that he's in as some kind of striker coach, as well as obviously coaching as a whole. He wouldn't have left his role for nothing. So I think it was very tongue in cheek, and obviously I don't agree with it whatsoever.
No, I was going to make the point. I think someone can correct me here. I believe he's actually the assistant manager, or is that Rennie Hake? Someone can point that out to me, because as far as I'm aware, Ruud is the assistant manager. But like, I can see, like, someone did make, was I listening to the Athletic podcast, and they were actually saying, like, people are questioning as to why so many people in managerial roles are leaving for a coaching role at Man United. Well, for about the fact of it's the opportunity to represent Manchester United, there has to be something more to it. Now, it might not be the Athletic, it might have been somewhere else I was listening to it, but it's a valid point to make, because I've seen a lot of people saying the idea of, if Ten Hag goes, you bring in Ruud straight away. I won't even compare it to Ollie, because it's 2 different classes of manager.
Yeah, but as well as that, like, I understand, but bear in mind, not a lot of people turned around and said that prior to the season start. In other words, this is the makeshift. In other words, we understand what I'm trying to say is, no one turned around and said, we're going to be battered by Liverpool 3-0 at home, and then all of a sudden the knives are out, and it's like, well, do you know what, we've already ready-made manager and Ruud there. He's done relatively well over in the Eredivisie, and he's such a strong relationship with Manchester United fans and Old Trafford as a whole, and again, I don't agree with that part of it. It's like any job. So people turn around and say, well, why did Ruud leave? It was PSV, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was PSV, but like, he left there of his own accord, if I'm right in saying.
Yeah. So it's like, as well as that, albeit he hasn't had a good track record, you could turn around and say the same thing about the Arsenal doctor. Why did the Arsenal doctor leave to come?
Oh, yes.
It's like, it's any job. There's obviously a financial aspect to why people leave, as well as that. Obviously, Ruud, I understand people's fans' perspective on it. Oh, well, do you know what? He's returned to Old Trafford, and potentially this going forward, he could take the job. But that's not to say, if Ruud van Nistelrooy took the job tomorrow, that's not to say that Manchester United all of a sudden we're going to be, challenging for the league again. Like, there's people can be very fickle-minded when it comes to things like that.
And actually, I got to bring in Trevor's point here, because it's actually one I want to kind of touch on. Ugarte with that Ten Hag outright signing. I think we kind of knew that already, though. But as Trevor goes on to say here, he has to start, but his comment that he might not play for months proves he has loyalty to Casemiro. Should he want to keep a Eustace McTominay? See, the problem with McTominay, and I've always said this, and I was baffled when he went to Napoli. At the end of the day, great move for McTominay, but under Conte, I still can't comprehend how McTominay fits in that system. So
No,
like,
it's like Billy Gilmore as well, though. Then you take the two Scottish lads. I know
that's right, he
McTominay
did.
is obviously, I know McTominay is obviously English, but ultimately he plays for Scotland. So he
Yeah.
literally took the two lads, and you know what you hope they do. Look, McTominay wasn't always my favourite player. However, like one thing he did was no matter what, he'd always run for you. He gave everything for you. And would I've rather McTominay stay at the club versus someone like Ericsson going out? I would have. So
Oh,
like there's
guaranteed,
obviously
yeah.
there's something obviously very wrong there. But you understand from a PSR
Uh,
perspective, etc.
we
That
haven't
they
answered. Sorry, we haven't answered to the Rude PSV scenario. Kind of my mindful man. Rude left PSV because they signed the player without consulting him. I think, no, obviously I didn't know anything about Rude at PSV. Obviously, he had power over signings. If that's the case, that he left with a player, and I think he left at a time where was that they were still challenging for the title if they had not basically had it wrapped up, but they were in the final stages of winning the league.
Yeah, and as well as that, he would have obviously there would have been clubs surrounding him. Did he not mention that as well? There would have been clubs being like offering him a chance, considering he obviously done so well, particularly with younger players over in Netherlands. So, there's obviously much more to it than what we'll ever probably know in regard to
Of course,
why
yeah.
he chosen to. But look, obviously, I'm happy to have him at the helm. He was literally like a childhood idol of mine. I was playing 12 or something when he signed.
Yeah.
If not younger. And I was just baffled with. He was just cold, wasn't he? I just love it.
Oh man.
Cold. What a striker.
But like it was a day tripping red on Twitter. Brian Murphy, he's a great man to put up clips. But honestly, I remember he shared one around the time when we were kind of getting to the start of the season, and it was just how Rouge took the ball. It was against Fulham and all. I think it was against Fulham. Anyway, I could be
In the middle
corrected.
of the park, was it? It was that one where he went on a mazy run.
He went on the run, but it's the fact that Brian Murphy made the point that most players would take it with his left foot because he went up the left channel, but he flicked it on with his right.
Yeah, it was a freakishly good finish.
Yeah,
Because I don't think the keeper expected that he was going to hit it that quick, albeit, it was about 8 to 10 seconds prior from getting the
let's
centre
put it this
circle.
way: a finish like that would have Zinedine Zidane going, "Whoo!" again. But like, it's one of those finishes you just watch over and over. But back to our actual manager, there's talk that Ineos just want to see a good side of play. They're not really concerned about results. Do you think that there's actual pressure on Ten Hag though if he doesn't walk away from St.Marys without 3 points?
I think that there's always been pressure on Ten Hag, as well as that. I forget what I was listening to today, but as well as that, I think, no, do you know what it was? I reverted back. It was like Neville's podcast with Carragher,
Oh yes.
obviously after the Liverpool loss. And Carragher was making the point, like they're saying they're happy, but ultimately these are like a set of staff who have went out and obviously spoke to other managerial teams and
Mm-hmm.
potential acquisitions. So like it's not they weren't happy with him. Like, it was just, that was the quick fix at the time. We couldn't get anyone else. We're talking literally after an FA Cup win. Like we
Yeah.
were only realistically put in the mist that he was going to remain at the helm, like probably was it 2 months ago, maybe at this rate. It was very, very close to the start of the season anyway. I know that much. It was still whisperings in around the time of pre-season games. So I think, look, I said it like every Manchester United fan that is a fan wants the same. We want them to do well. Like we literally just want consistency with our managerial team.
Yeah.
However, like you have to win at Manchester United. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's ultimately. I don't think like the knives are always going to be out from tomorrow if it's a case where we don't get a result at St. Mary's.
Yeah.
However, we still have a serious run in coming up, particularly with like Europa League games, etc., and obviously League Cup games. So he needs some level of consistency over the next couple of weeks, I'd say, versus just him again with the knives out if it's a case where we don't get a result tomorrow. I don't think he gets sacked if Manchester United lose tomorrow. But as well as that, we're obviously fickle-minded fans at times, aren't we? So like, there's going to be people baying for blood.
Regardless. And like that's the one thing I hate about United fans. It's just the fickleness of some of them. Where, like, fair, I'll put my hand up if I said something contrary to what I normally believe in, I'll put my hand up and say, yeah, fair enough, I said that and I'm wrong to say it.
Because do you know what it is, Darragh? You always get clusters of fan groups, particularly obviously huge clubs, whether it's Manchester United or Liverpool. I'm just speaking from Liverpool perspective, considering obviously I live in Ireland. They're the two biggest supported clubs,
Of
as you
course.
know. So like, there's people literally in my friend group that I won't speak to them about Liverpool, and they'd be very good friends because I know the bullshit. But as well as
Yeah.
that, as well as that, there's Manchester United fans as well that I'm like, oh, here, forget about it,
Oh
because
no,
I can't listen.
I could definitely say the same there. I could
Yeah, I can't,
definitely.
and that's what it's like being a Manchester United fan coming from Dublin. There's people who you go to, or you text and say, "What do you think of this?" And there's people who it's a wide berth, and if they text you, they're either blocked or you don't respond.
Oh, like at the end of the day, do I think Ten Hag can be successful? I genuinely think he could, and I've said that from day one. I've always wanted him over Poch from what I always saw of the two of them, and I like Poch as well. But this is what I wanted in a manager at Man United. I wanted in Ten Hag. Trevor, come on, would be nice to Mark. He's from Dub. He's a West Brit. Like he sounds Welsh.
Sounds Welsh. That's a forced anyway. But yeah, we as well as that, we obviously agree with you. But do you know what kills Ten Hag as well? It's these. So at first when he came in, he said like basically nothing lasts forever. In other words,
Yeah,
like yeah, obviously had City at the helm and Liverpool following a close second, and
yeah.
that was obviously the term on which he obviously found himself be Manchester United manager. But the problem is over the past couple of years, we from a results perspective haven't got close enough to them. Like there's times where we're walking out, like in other words, 2 weeks ago, you're walking out of Old Trafford and you're getting battered 3-0 by Liverpool. And it's like, this hasn't changed.
Yeah.
This perspective of your gameplay hasn't changed. There's teams literally surround us. And then you get like freakishly like good results. In other words, you beat City 2-0 in the FA Cup final and you play very well. And some of your, underperformers throughout the year, or Amrabat has like a game of his life. And it's like you give him a bit more leeway. It's like, do you know what? I can see something here. But then it's you're only good as your next result, really. Then
But was this though, like, and I've kind of just thought about it there. It's more. I think it's more down to the formation and the tactics that he plays because obviously he came in, he tried playing his style of football. We lost to Brighton, we lost to Brentford, but then he realized, okay, this isn't my squad. I'm gonna have to revert to what was there before. So he went back to playing that old 4-2-3-1, having the double pivot. You had Ericsson and you had Casemiro. It worked beautifully, and you saw where I won't call United fans delirious, but we were of the mindset of we're on to great things after the 22-23 season. And then we saw over the course of the preseason leading to 23-24, you have this better style of football, but without the results. And we just saw how we kind of fell off a cliff then last year because he was trying to play this 4-3-3 with Casemiro there by himself, no one to protect him. Because I was at that game against Wolves. You want to talk about of all the games that where the midfield has been a wide berth, you literally had Casemiro still thinking he was in that double pivot with Fred or Ericsson at the time sitting in front of the back four, and then you had Mount and Bruno up elsewhere across the pitch. There was just literally no Man United midfield because Casemiro was still in front of the back four. Now that's great if you're trying to sit deep. It was a different style there, completely different. But then you're going into a new season with a new formation and this 4-2-4 formation. Like you could see that Casemiro would work still in a 4-2-3-1 with a double pivot. Someone like Menu. I'm even going to say even if you want to really set up deep in a certain game, let's say like another Liverpool game, Arsenal, City, you have Ugarte and Casemiro because you can literally let Casemiro sit in front of the back four. Ugarte does running. You have Bruno up at number 10. That works. That does work. In my head, it does anyway. But like, it's just the you talk about inconsistencies. It's the fact that there's been no consistent formation, no consistent tactics,
no consistent results.
that's the problem.
You
So
know,
like,
it's there's no consistency. Like that's at the forefront of what we should be looking to implement. Particularly, obviously, with like a new squad over the past 2 3 years. There's been so many outgoings versus so many incomings as well, and as well as that, obviously, a change of ownership of the club. Well, certain points of the club in regards to ownership, which is obviously seeing again an influx of money, etc. Over the past 2 seasons. Well, obviously this year being, more forefront than the likes of Agarte comes in, Zerski, players of that caliber.
mm,
However, that's where you say to yourself, okay, well, we're literally we need you to show us,
mhm,
literally what is the game plan here now, and what's the overall, the overall like mechanisms.
yeah,
It's that's where the frustration lies for Manchester United fans, obviously including myself, because like what you touched on, there's no
mm,
consistency. But the worrying thing for me is I'm no tactical genius whatsoever. I'm literally like a Manchester United fan since I was a kid, and
yeah.
I've studied tactics over the past couple of years. I understand what's going on. However, if we understand that there's an issue, how come that can't be? Do you know
Identified it internally,
exactly?
like,
If fans as a whole know there's an issue, like I know you touched on that Wolves game. That Wolves game, literally, I walked out of that game myself, and I said to myself, "This feels like a loss. Like
yeah,
this isn't the same team that I seen several times last year. That I literally was on my pedestal because I was like, we have something good going on here." However, I said to myself, "This is the first game." I
yeah.
forget what my next game after that was, but anyway, I remember I went to the Fulham game as well as had the 2-1 loss. And I
Oh
said to
yes.
myself, this, like, what's going on there? And the holes in the midfield, holy,
Oh man.
like, and I was just like,
But like, what it is though, and
yeah,
I know what you think of this now. I was fortunate enough to go to one of the UCL games last year. I went to the Bayern Munich game where it was just he decided to set up differently in Europe. I was looking at it a different perspective for the Bayern game. But like, you look at the results we had in the Champions League last year, we were actually doing great things in the Champions League, but we couldn't hold on to a lead to save our life.
yeah,
Or
like the likes of the Copenhagen game, etc.
oh
We
man, like,
started very well, played
i-
relatively well, and still
if
lost,
if you
etc.
mentioned last year's Europa League group
Yeah,
stage or Champions League group stage to Andy Mitten, he'll go off on a tangent because he still has that frustration about the fact that we did so poorly, and you could completely understand it. Like,
it's because again when we do relatively well, as well as that, like you could go back as far to say like the decade preceding Ferguson's
yeah,
departure, and like the managers who have come in, like say the likes of Mourinho, done
yeah,
relatively well in his first year. Like he literally says like this was his, is it like like people think I'm acting a jack, but it was me best ever finish.
mm,
Considering with the squad I had, etc., second place finish,
mm,
Europa League winner, etc., Community Shield or whatever it was at the time, and then he, then we didn't push on. So like we seem to be lacking in that regard. So in other words, you have Ten Hag comes in his first year again relatively well, etc. Champions League, finish obviously Community Shield, etc.
yeah,
And then it's like, okay, we're going to push on now because we'll sign a couple of players. You can see there's somewhat of a soil coming up. However, like we've lost pivotal games
yeah,
to obviously our rivals. However, there's something going on. And then it comes to last year. Now again, people can go on. You talk your red in the face. We've obviously had an abundance of injuries in key positions.
hmm,
But again, to revert back and touch on what you said about Casemiro. So I remember I made this point a couple of weeks ago. Even when we had, and I'm not saying fully fit, but even when we had fit centre halves, at times last year he was playing centre half.
yeah,
So if it's a case where it's me tomorrow and I'm picking that side, I'm like Casemiro. He needs resting. You
yeah,
know, literally the knives are going to be out for that man. So that's where you'd put in the likes of Manu and Agarte if that's what you wanted to go with in regards to, 2 4s, have people playing for the forward, the likes of Bruno, guys where Zerski plays in the nine. But like then if that doesn't happen and Casemiro plays tomorrow and makes more mistakes, God forbid, whatever it
mm,
may be, because like when we're talking about mistakes as a whole, he's going to be like judged on everything tomorrow if it's the case where he starts. So what's then is the plan? What's your plan with
mm,
that man then? Because it's sad. This is like a multi-time Champions League winner. Like he hasn't just fallen off the face of the earth. Like there's an excellent player in there. However, I personally just don't think he's getting enough support as what he should do, particularly obviously within the players behind him, beside him, etc.
Yeah.
Albeit that doesn't take away from the fact that it was just passing that led to obviously Liverpool's goals as in the first, and then obviously you got dispossessed in the second one. So like what's the plan there? I'm just going off the beaten track here. I apologise.
Oh no, because like in fairness, I was going to bring in the point here. Trevor, of course, he takes a shot at me. No wonder we lost against Bayern Munich because Darragh was in the crowd. I went to 6 games last year. We only lost 2. What about it? But I'm going to move it on because, in fairness, we were looking for ways to have a bit of fun on the show and bring up the old rabbits again. Mark, who is your favourite goalkeeper and why of Manchester United history?
Oh, I, I know we touched on it earlier. I personally think it's Peter Schmeichel, just based on the fact that, like, when I was a kid when he obviously was playing for Manchester United. So yeah, I'd say Schmeichel, just based on the fact that we can look at players from that era and say this was kind of part of my childhood. So I think that's why Edwin van der Sar obviously comes in later down the line, and
like I suppose for me though, like I will, because we've suffered through the doldrums of watching United post Fergie and being saved after save after save by David De Gea. But for me, it has to be Van der Sar, and I think it's because of when we got him, because we had basically suffered through the doldrums of post Peter Schmeichel. We had Tim Howard, we had Roy Carroll, we had the odd appearance from Taibbi.
Mark Bosnich.
Oh yeah, see, there you go. We're listing off the bad habits of the club.
Oh, we had bad ones.
And then we have Van der Sar come in, and it was until he left, no one could touch him. And like, in fairness, no, you could probably ask me to try and name half the United keepers that were playing number 2 to him. I probably couldn't. I'll be dead honest there.
This is off the beaten track a little bit, but I remember Manchester United play at Shelbourne in Tolka Park. I think it was in around 2000, so he would have been about 10.
Yeah.
And Mark Bosnich walked by me, like, outside the ground, and I asked him for his autograph at the time. So it was like, albeit it was a Manchester United 11, this is like, a starting keeper for Manchester United. And he just walked straight by me.
I would right about United goalkeepers. Former United keeper was good enough to take a photo with me. He was playing for Burnley at the time against Cork City, and Dries Lindegaard. Probably my outside of Sergio Romero, probably my favorite number 2.
It'd have to be, wouldn't he?
Oh, have to be.
Well, we had we went through a serious amount of goalkeepers. Or like Thomas Chuchek and all that.
Yeah, and do I know you mentioned his name? One of my buddies, I say he's one of those who I always end up going to United games with. Like, I remember we were going home at the same site from, I can't remember what game it was off the top of my head now. But literally, all I remember seeing as I'm sitting on the tram going to the airport, and he's already there, and he's after getting a photo. He goes, "Do you recognize this man?" I goes, "Tom, who the hell are you after taking a photo with?" He goes, "That's Thomas Kuszczak." I goes, "He would have walked by me, I wouldn't have recognized him." No, honest to God, I'd actually find the photo because he probably put up on his own social media. My buddy did, but honestly, I saw the photo and I goes, "That's not him." He changed.
It's probably different hair or something like that. Because I remember his hair being like blonde and gelled and that.
Yeah, no, but like, what was like, even my buddy, he put it up on one of the Facebook groups we're a part of, and a lot of people said the same as me. How well you recognize him? Because I wouldn't have.
He's just obviously a good man for a face.
No, honestly, because I genuinely said if he walked past me, I would not have recognized it was him.
Do you know what was funny? Actually, I was watching because I was just I had time off work after holidays. I was watching that again. Rio meets today, and he had Hargreaves on. I don't know when this was on, but he was saying that he was at Manchester United training at times. Obviously, they were more intense than games, based on the fact obviously he had world class players there at the time. Obviously, like your Ronaldo's and your Rooney's and their pomp, etc. And something along the lines like I'm nearly sure it was Chuchek here. I'm obviously pronouncing that wrong, but the ball went in between him and Rooney, and it was like he went to deck and Rooney went in full force. This is what it was like apparently, and absolutely broke him up to the point where like he was screaming on the ground. Apparently, this was a daily occurrence. Manchester United players just like went in as hard as you can. There was no pulling out with tackles, and he was just like, "What's going on here?"
Sure,
You know,
did you hear Patrice Evra and Gary Neville talking about training there last time?
like literally, it was like a touch on earlier, dog eat dog, like and but
Exactly,
like
like,
like
but
that
those are
doesn't
the
happen
days, though.
anymore,
Like,
doesn't it? No.
those are the gone days. Like, cause like I'm gonna kind of bring it slightly forward onto Southampton because I'm looking at the whole trend on Twitter of the Barclays era, and I'm there like, yeah, Southampton are long gone from the Barclays era. They're not a Barclays team anymore. Like, do you find that they'll have any hope of staying up? Like, I know people doubted Leicester in the start, but then they managed to get that result against, or albeit a draw against Tottenham. Do you have any hope for any of those teams? And I'm going to pinpoint Southampton here because I'm looking at their team earlier to kind of have an idea as to who is in that team and where it sets up. Like, I'm actually surprised Jed Benrek is still there given the whole 9-0 scenario. But their team doesn't scream to me that they're going to stay up, though.
Yeah. Um. I think like we were nearly shocked with Burnley last year in regards to the money that they pumped into that club.
Oh, man, that was
Yeah,
brutal.
it was brutal. I only finished actually that. All I seem to do is watch telly now that I'm off work. Like, I finished up that Burnley documentary last night, and I was just like, I was absolutely baffled at the end. Anyway, I'm going off the beaten course.
Of course.
I don't see any of them staying up. Being honest
But,
with you,
like,
I haven't seen anything. Do you know when you get clusters of performances? Now we know we're obviously only 3 games in, but I
yeah,
thought like Luton would have stayed up last year. I
I
said,
was really hoping they would,
yeah,
but
I was hoping they would. Like
they
Ogbene,
actually,
etc. There and that.
and on that note, they were actually a team that gave performances of a team that were going to stay up, though.
Exactly, especially at home. Like they were
Mhm.
just fearless. Um,
But
no, I
you
don't.
say that though, like, and like, I think I had this conversation with two of the lads I work with, and we were shocked that. Well, sorry, I was more shocked than they were that let's say Luton were a fortress when they came to the Premier League in terms of being a Kenilworth Road, and then first game of the championship, Burnley versus Luton, Luton smash them 4-1 at Kenilworth Road, and I'm there like, but they were a fortress there last year. But like, even one of the lads made a point to me. But you have to think about the Premier League teams never come to a ground like that. It's like United playing a Turner's Cross every week. Like, that's the way they put it to me. Like, and I said that is actually a very valid point when you put it that way because you consider Turner's Cross is only what 7,500, 8,000. Imagine
Turner's Cross would have been a better, like it looks aesthetically more pleasing than Kenilworth Road.
it does, and like at least there's a bit of space around the pitch. Well, to a certain level. But like
Do you know, I'd like to, like, again, albeit I don't see them staying up. Like, I've watched the team who I've watched out of the 3 who come up, obviously, was obviously Ipswich in regard to they'd played City and played Liverpool, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken. And just obviously, like, Sammy Smoddocks and all there, and
of
Ogbenny's only
course.
at the sign, and obviously, have Kieran McKenna at the helm. So I was like, I watched them games, and I just,
Mhm.
again, didn't see anything from them. Unfortunately, again, like I'm not judging jury by May, we'll know, but I just personally haven't seen anything. Albeit they've had very tough starts in regards to playing, obviously, probably 2 of the top sides in the country in
Yeah,
Liverpool and Man City. So, that can't say an awful lot. But as well, these teams, the likes of Ipswich, etc., they'll pick up points somewhere. I don't see Southampton doing much based on what I've seen. But you know what? I actually won't open my mouth any further because come tomorrow, they'll
like
probably have 3 points.
but like you know, I'm looking at I'm looking at Southampton's team that lined up against Brentford. I'm looking at the fact that Aaron Ramsdale, I don't care what people say, he's a decent keeper. I actually am kind of surprised in my eyes, and I said this to the guys I work with, him moving to Southampton, for me personally, is a step down. I think that, and I only saying that because he had such decent performances at Arsenal, and then it all just fell away from him. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. I just don't think it's right. I didn't think it was the right move from him. I thought he could still maintain of a better level Premier League club than that.
I'd agree. It's obviously strange, and there's some sense of structure in the deal. And as well as that, like Southampton, like played a very good brand of football last year.
Mm-hmm.
And the likes, I'm more devastated again. I know, like touching on something off subject, but or off topic, should I say? But the
Yeah.
likes of Bazoo now, that's him now gone. Like he
Oh,
won't
like
be. Yeah, it's stuff like that where you're like, this player's been at the club for several years, and he comes in for criticism at times, but I don't know. Like from an Irish perspective, I like him. Ramsdale, yeah, it's a strange one. But as well as that, didn't he gave that interview last year, didn't he, saying that like at times his mind wanders off and he just ends up talking to fans, etc. Like that was literally like he shot himself in the foot. Like
Yeah, no, I suppose when you put it like that, like again, bring it back to the lower level. Say, like I'm there. Like, could I imagine Wade for Cork City turning around to the fans in the shed ends having a chat mid game? No, you fucking wouldn't. Like,
exactly, like you wouldn't open your mouth. You'd have to and that's again without sounding disrespectful. That's like a League of Ireland level versus a Premier League level
exactly.
where
Like, and like,
he's playing in the Emirates every couple of weeks where like there's so many thousand whatever it is. I don't know
like
off my head.
I'd say something. No, say if he was at Kenilworth Road and he was up against the fans as tight as it is. But there's a gap between the fans and Emirates, say for example, and where his actual goals are.
It's a bigger gap than they had at Highbury, So like
Exactly, like, and like that was a decent gap then, like.
and that was a decent gap enough, yeah. I don't know, like there's obviously something there, and like what you said, like why would you throw your eggs in the one basket in the sense of he's had to come from like a prestigious Arsenal side,
Yeah,
in regards to the squad they have to like a team who have literally just gained promotion. So there's obviously he's one of them players that like when he obviously signed for Arsenal at the time from Sheffield United, if I'm not mistaken.
mhm,
People obviously put him on a pedestal in regards to obviously he's potentially again England's number one, but he just never took the reins off Jordan Pickford to
yeah.
his own demise.
Uh what could have been from, unfortunately. But look, I think we'll wrap it up on the final note of what we normally do on our previews. Any sort of prediction or lineup or even score prediction, because like I mentioned at the start, bar the 9-0 against or during COVID times, this hasn't been exactly a high scoring game.
It hasn't, but you know what? Like, always popped into my head because it was literally, I think it was 10 years this week, if I'm not mistaken. It was that Van Persie hat trick, wasn't it?
It was
Uh,
actually it
yeah,
was like, oh no, sorry, sorry, start of September that was actually.
yeah. Sorry, I'm a bit off track.
Yeah,
Yeah. A day or two. Yeah, it was a
yeah,
decade.
a
It was
day or two,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was a decade ago. That's crazy, isn't it? But
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know. Look, I hope. Look, obviously, I hope we win. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say 2-0 Man United.
you. I
And
know. I'm gonna be the one who has to give the scrappy result. I'm gonna say 1-0 because I have to. I can't. Like, just going off the fact that we've been scraping through results recently, to say the least. Like, I'll kind of go back quickly onto what we were saying earlier. Good football, no end product. So that's why I'm sticking to the scrappy 1-0 there on that one. But on that note, we will end the show here, lads. Man, I did not think we'd get to the near hour mark, but here we are.
thank you very much. I've actually thoroughly enjoyed that. It's
Yeah,
like it's like a free counseling session at times.
that and that's one way to look at it. Trevor, Keen, everyone in the comments, Khaled, everyone, thank you very much for joining in as always. And lads, we will leave it there. Good
Thanks,
night.
lads.